So thank you for joining us this evening. My name is Brianna Bryant. I am a certified prevention specialist here with Bangor Public Health. I specifically within Bangor Public Health do substance use prevention work throughout Penobscot County. You'll notice that there is another black screen in the audience that says Bangor Public Health. That is my co-host Roxanne. She works with our tobacco program. She's going to be running the behind the scenes technical assistance portion of this evening. I do have the chat enabled and we're going to be able to keep an eye on that. So if you have any questions, if you want to share information, or if you want to leave your contact information in order to get more information sent to you, the chat is the good place to do that. Also, I'm guessing that we have a lot of, besides parents and caring adults, I believe we have a lot of university students here. If you can do the raise hand reaction, if you're a university student, that would give us awesome. If you need this, if you need like a continuing education or a certificate or anything from this, please put your name and email in the chat, and I will get something sent out to you with like a certificate of completion if that's going to be helpful for you. Just put your name, contact email, and I'll get that sent out within the next couple of days. And on that note, thank you again for joining us. I am going to start sharing my screen so that you can see our PowerPoint, and we'll start sharing our creating inclusive environments for LGBTQ youth. Okay, thank you, and again, welcome. This is part of the PrEP program with the Penobscot Region Education Collaborative. We're going to be sharing information not only about creating inclusive environments within your own home, school, or communities, but also sharing the resource of LGBTQ plus SupportME network and the website that we've started as part of that network. We're going to be exploring some of the key features, and we're always going to have time for questions. So if you have something that you really want to know, I will stop periodically through the presentation this evening to give you a chance to ask any questions that you may have. As we do gather here today, I want to take the time to acknowledge that we are, and we want to acknowledge as we gather in this place, that we are occupying the traditional territory and ancestral lands of the Wabanaki people, who for thousands of years have called this place home. We want to acknowledge their continued connection to this land, give thanks for allowing us to do this good work on their homeland, and remember their ancestors who were here before us. So I just want to take a moment, acknowledge that, understanding that we are just in a really traditional place, and thanking them for that. Again, my name is Brianna Bryant. I'm a certified prevention specialist. I've been working with the Bangor Public Health Substance Use Prevention Team for about 6 years now, and we do work all through Penobscot County with primary prevention of alcohol, cannabis, and prescription drug misuse, and we do that in a variety of different ways. You'll see some of them on here, but if you have any more questions or anything, you can always contact us through our social media with Facebook or through our website. And I did ask this real quick, so if you want to write in the chat, if you are a caring adult, if you're a parent, if you have ages and stages of the people that you work with, or if you're learning about being an educator or in the Department of Education here with the University of Maine, just write that in the chat, because it kind of gives us a good idea who we have here, and maybe be able to cater some of the information to make sure that we're covering what you might be looking for with this presentation this evening. If we have any support staff, we have secondary ed, student teachers, awesome. the student teacher College of Education with UMaine is awesome. If you graduate, you might be able to do a public health prevention specialist someday. Awesome, thank you. Seeing lots of elementary ed, secondary ed. Saw a phys ed teacher. Shout out to my phys ed teacher people. That's awesome. Cover that back up. Thank you for sharing. We appreciate that. We're going to touch first on here, thinking about pronouns. And I love this little infographic of the genderbread person. And you can get this resource through genderbread.org. And I'll share that resource at the end in the chat. Thinking about gender and how it exists, not on a binary, not a this or that, but on a spectrum, and really understanding and appreciating that individuals can travel across the spectrum and not just stay stationary in how they express their gender, how they feel about their gender, anything like that, their expression of their gender and their attraction. Speaking directly about pronouns, we need to remember that young people should never be pressured to include their pronouns. Remembering that you might have a student or a young person in your life that appears cis. So cisgender is their gender expression matches their given sex at birth. And remembering that they may appear what you think as a cisgender person, but they could be closeted, they could be struggling with their identity, and being pressured might trigger some dysphoria, some uncomfortableness. It might just trigger some not so great things about who they are, how they put themselves out there, and why are you really asking? That might, all of those things that might be going through that young person's head. And it also might make students feel like they need to come out before they might be ready to. Giving the opportunity to share pronouns across the board, not just with people that you're wondering about, but everybody. If you're in a classroom of students, if you're in a youth group, allowing everybody the opportunity to share their pronouns is an approach that gives all students the choice, and it's going to take away those assumptions. Also noting that we don't talk about what somebody's preferred pronouns are. Their pronouns are their pronouns. It's not something that they prefer. It's not something that they prefer. It's something that is what they are. I prefer peanut butter and jelly. I am not peanut butter and jelly. Kind of a more simple way of looking at it, that just understanding it's not what they prefer to be called, it's who they are and what they need to be called and addressed as and seen as. But I do really like this genderbread person. It's just a fun little infographic that kind of explains it really well. You can use this for all ages. It's just very welcoming and opening, and it allows a chance for conversations to start. Now on the public health, substance use prevention end of what I do for this work. In public health, we use this current metric here to study data, to study what we know about specifically high school and middle school youth, those students and young people who are enrolled in public school education. We use something called the Maine Integrated Youth Health Survey. You may have heard of this, you may have not, but it is a really good way to collect a lot of data across the state, where we ask whole schools of students questions, and there's 4 versions of the high school questionnaire, and they're asking everything that could pertain to the health status of Maine youth, also looking at positive or negative attitudes and behaviors that influence healthy development. The data from the Maine Integrated Youth Health Survey can be used with schools, community organizations, and state agencies to plan and evaluate programs, and also it gives us a good basis for our grant applications. The Maine Integrated Youth Health Survey is a collaborative effort between the Department of Health and Human Services, Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, and the Department of Education. This information that we have here in front of you for the Maine Integrated Youth Health Survey is from 2019. It is the most current information that we have, and we do understand it's about 2 years old now. We are going to be having another Maine Integrated Youth Health Survey here in this next month or so, and it'll probably be next summer before we get that compiled data. This is a survey that is done every other year. Typically it's done in January or February, but because of the pandemic and where some schools were in person, some were remote, there's all the hybrid stuff, they held off on posting that. So when we look back in the next 5, 7, 10 years, we're going to have a little asterisk and the 2021 data because of the different timing. And it'll also be interesting to see what our health behaviors look like for our youth in this time where things got a little weird. A baseline data check with the Maine Integrated Youth Health Survey, where we're asking students a question and we are able to collect data on percentages. We can look at statewide data, we can look at public health district data, we can look at county level, and you can actually get it at the school level. I don't have access to school level. That's something that's given by superintendents, but we can look at county level data that does what we're going to find here in Penobscot County. A lot of it mirrors the statewide information. So the first question that we have the data point here is, which of the following best describes you? And the percentage of students who answered gay, lesbian, or bisexual was 12.4% here in Penobscot County. You'll see on this, it's 13.6 in the state. So it's about 1 in 7. Then we have the sexual orientation here. I'm sorry about that. These are the numbers for Penobscot County. Sometimes we give this at a state level. So our sexual orientation here is the 12.4%. Then we have our gender identity. And this is going to capture the data and information about those students who are cisgendered, those that are not sure, and those that are transgender. And about 1.6 of our students here in Maine high schools do identify as transgender. Now, why are we parsing out the data about somebody who does not identify as gay, lesbian, or trans, or who does identify as heterosexual? That's because we know that lesbian, gay, bisexual, and trans students are experiencing more violence and discrimination, not only at school, but also in the community and in their homes. They're twice as likely to feel unsafe at school. They are more likely to be bullied at school. And they're also more likely to experience offensive comments or attacks in or on their way to school because of either their perceived sexual orientation or their gender expression. Also thinking about that, our LGBTQ youth and students are less likely to have support from caring adults and are more likely to experience violence. Some of the questions in here do talk about some of those risk and protective factors that influence health. So a protective factor is having a parent or a caring adult that helps them succeed. You'll notice that 79% of our non-LGBTQ identified students feel like that, whereas 65% of LGBTQ students identify that they have a parent or caring adult that want to help them succeed. Also looking at having a family that provides love and support. That's another protective factor. Feeling like they matter in the community. Only 37% of our LGBT identified youth feel like they matter in the community. And also understanding that our LGBT students are significantly more likely to say that violence in their home or the threat of violence has made them consider leaving home. So home is no longer a safe place for them. And I think this data rings true with our unhoused youth, that they've had to leave home, a large portion of them, because they have identified or come out as something non-binary, or that they are gay or lesbian or bi, or they're trans, or there's something other that makes home not a safe place for them. Also, a really scary fact is that our LGBT youth are 3 times more likely to have been forced to have sexual contact in their lifetime. That's a really big number to think about. And what does that mean for them? You'll notice that we do mention adverse childhood experiences on this slide. Those are our ACE scores. And anything above, there's about 10 ACE metrics where you can have these 10 adverse childhood experiences that can lead to problems with health and being an adult. And those with 4 or more, LGBT students are twice as likely to have 4 or more of those ACE scores and ACE things that have happened to them. Sorry, data's kind of dry. I appreciate you kind of walking through, but I think it is kind of important to look at this and really understanding that these things are not happening, and the use rates and the violence, it's not because the kids being gay or trans or bi does not cause the problems. It's the community's perception of them. And also when we're talking about, we are going to talk about the use rates. So alcohol, tobacco, cannabis, prescription drugs and misusing prescription drugs, they're not using these at a higher rate because of their sexual orientation or gender or anything like that. They're using because of the stress and bias and problems that come with this by our communities by not being inclusive. So that's why we kind of build this foundation of, this is what our young people who are LGBT are experiencing. Now we can see how that can lead to increased substance use, which is why here in our program and why there's a lot of prevention professionals that are part of the network that are trying to deal with this. Because if we can deal with and build better inclusive environments, we are going to have better, safer outcomes for all of our youth, especially for those that are already experiencing a lot of really bad things happening to them. Also looking at the mental health outcomes for LGBT youth, they are more likely to feel sad or hopeless for more than 2 weeks in the past year, have long-term emotional or behavioral problems. And what's really scary and heartbreaking, I'm sure to anybody that looks at this, is they have nearly 4 times more likely to have seriously considered suicide in the past year. So we have students, we have 2,800 students here in the state of Maine that have seriously considered suicide in the past year. So that means they've started thinking about the process, they've started thinking about a plan and what they're going to do. That number, that 2,800, is enough to fill 58 school buses. That's a really scary number to be thinking about for our young people. Now, to cope with everything that we just laid out there, that's a lot. That's a really heavy thing. Now, thinking about being a young person, identifying as something other than typical, or identifying as lesbian or gay or bi or trans or anything that we talk about here, and thinking about the violence and discrimination, it's kind of understanding why they might turn to some harmful substance use. LGBT students are twice as likely to have smoked cigarettes in the past 30 days. So when we talk about the past 30 days, that's a data indication of current use. Also, our LGBT students young people are more likely to have used marijuana or alcohol in the past 30 days. Comparatively speaking, we have other substances that we are tracking here, such as heroin, cocaine, prescription drugs, inhalants, and pain medications. And when we're talking about like prescription drugs or pain meds, that is using non-prescribed to them in non-prescribed ways. So how or what are we doing to really combat some of the stuff that's going on here? And I'm going to bring you to the website. So while I'm clicking through to get us there, I'm going to stop my share. And I want to give you folks a chance here. If anybody has any questions, would like me to look at information again in a different way, if you want to, you can feel free to come off mute. You can type it in the chat. But really, this is a good chance for us to do a quick check-in. If you're looking for anything else, you want some deeper dive into any of the information. And it gives me a chance to drink some water. All right, I don't think I see any. I'm trying, I do have the chat up too, Roxanne. So sometimes
I was gonna say, I don't see anything yet, Bree, but
no,
you guys are welcome to add a message when you need one.
Yeah. Roxanne knows that sometimes when we're doing our Zooms, our chat will stay, sometimes it leaves. We never know what's gonna happen there. All right, so now I have my site up. I'm gonna start sharing my screen again. Maybe. Okay. So hopefully you see in front of you some rainbow colored chalk there. And this is our homepage for the LGBTQ plus SupportME network. And I do want to point out, because this is exciting and you guys are the first big group that we're able to share this with. Thank you for that little note in there in the chat. So I do want to share with you guys in this, we have a new logo, which is surprising. This stuff is hard to create. So we worked with this wonderful young man. I believe he was from Canada, but he was doing some media development work, and he did this work for our network for free. And he came up with our logo, and it has the state of Maine, and it talks about the rainbow, and really kind of captures some of the things that we wanted to capture in a logo. So that's up in that upper left-hand corner for you. We're super proud of it, and you guys get to be one of the first ones to see it. So here is our website. I love our website. We have put a lot of time and effort into this. And I want to first click on the About Us tab. So we tried to make this as user-friendly as possible. And hopefully you'll find something in here that's useful for you in a variety of different ways, whether you're a parent or a caring adult, you're a community member, you're an educator, or you're in the College of Ed looking to be a teacher. I hope you're able to gather something from this website that you find helpful and also share it out as much as possible. So we have our mission and vision of the group as well as our values. So over the last 3.5, 4 years, and with the support of Maine Prevention Services and local substance youth prevention coalitions, the LGBTQ plus SupportME network has evolved into a collaborative group of diverse public health professionals and compassionate organizations. Our original group goals that we incorporated into the website were form a network of like-minded prevention providers, identify and create culturally appropriate outreach materials, methods, and media, increase the capacity to be affirming and knowledgeable prevention providers with culturally competent supports, include the everyday materials that help to highlight inclusion. We want to make sure we're connecting youth to larger networks. As you know, Maine is a pretty rural, spread out state. And we have students all over the place, and sometimes just connecting to the state as a whole can feel a lot less lonely for any student, specifically any student that identifies as LGBTQ+. Increase the number of opportunities for LGBTQ plus youth to be in empowered and empowering situations and settings. We're working really hard to educate adults, parents, and caring adults in ways that allow them to ask questions and to learn to be more inclusive. Find ways to engage communities in the larger conversations and how to make this all safer and more welcoming and affirming for all of our students. Right now, the members do meet virtually each month. It is the first Wednesday of the month from 11 to 12, and we're always welcoming new members to increase our inclusivity and to make sure we're covering as much as we can. So that's who we are. You'll notice here on the page, I do have, we've listed the logos of our partners. So we have everybody from Healthy Androscoggin, Mayan, which is the Maine Youth Action Network, and especially for those caring adults and parents, actually anybody who's working or living with young people, Mayan is an amazing resource. We have Portland Public Health, Somerset Public Health, and these are all of the prevention partners from across the state that are doing the work very similar to what we do here in Penobscot County. OutMain here is another great resource for our young people and the adults that care about them. And something that we made sure to do is with all of our partners here, if you click on their logo, it'll actually bring you right to their website. So a fun little feature so you don't have to go all over the place looking for what you want to see. Now traveling to the Just the Facts tab at the top here. The main substance use prevention professionals, again, we're using several sources of information to gather that critical information about LGBTQ plus youth, the communities, to look at implementing that evidence-based, evidence-informed interventions and programs. So this is, again, that statewide data specific to our LGBTQ plus youth population, including our substance use trends and other health disparities that these youth commonly experience. So again, we have our Maine Integrated Youth Health Survey. We have some of those infographics that I had picked out in the slide deck. There is a fact sheet specifically for the health disparities of Maine transgender youth. You'll notice some of those items and pieces of data there. We also have the Maine Public Health Association, so MPHA, has done some data collection, including some industry marketing and targeting with tobacco. So that's a really big highlight. And we know that kind of the whole rainbow washing and rainbow capitalism that has gone on, especially with the tobacco and alcohol industries, is targeting our young people who are LGBTQ plus even more than just our other young people. And thinking about being a young person here in the state of Maine, maybe you're questioning, maybe you know you are transgender, you know that you are bisexual, you know that you are gay or lesbian, and you're just looking for things that speak to who you are, how you identify, and something to connect you with. And you know that the rainbow kind of connotates that safe space person thing for you, and you walk into Hannaford and you see a local craft beer and the can is in a rainbow, and you're thinking, all right, that's for me, that's something that I need. And as a young person with our brain development, we're looking for those really good flashy ways to connect. Our alcohol and tobacco industries know this, and they're capitalizing that. Hey, no problem about that. Thanks for adding your information, and I will do that certificate for you. Good job. So going back to the website, I saw something come up in the chat. So also, I like how the MPHA has addressed that as of 2016, you know, we're not doing great. We got a score out of 10 out of 25 on the health linked tobacco census. We do link to that so you can get more information about that data and how that research was conducted. It is getting better. Our partners here at Healthy Communities of the Capital Area just got a very large grant addressing tobacco use with our LGBTQ plus youth, and they have a partner here in the Bangor area with Health Access Network, and they are specifically dealing with the tobacco use with our LGBTQ plus youth and adults. Another good snapshot here is Blessin, another great resource if you're looking at a national level. They are providing evidence-based and evidence-informed programs and solutions for public education, and they're doing a really good job with advocating for policies that protect and decrease the marginalization of LGBTQ plus identities and empowering students. They look at the school climate here in the state of Maine, looking at how we're hearing words being used and hearing gay used in a negative way, something like "that's so gay." 87% of students are hearing this on a regular basis. Other negative remarks about gender expression, homophobic remarks, harassment and assault within the schools. It paints a pretty bleak picture, and I don't want to be all doom and gloom, because we do know that the kids are okay and they're doing really wonderful things, but we do need to lay down the foundation of they are facing a lot more when it comes to violence, discrimination, and having some unhealthier coping mechanisms while dealing with all that. That's why we need to talk about this stuff. Now looking at the what we do. This is specifically speaking with the Maine Prevention Services. This is a collaborative effort of the Maine CDC, which is the Center for Disease Control and Prevention, as well as our community partners that work across the state. And Maine Prevention Services covers everything from substance use to preventing obesity, tobacco, and other substance use. You might be familiar with some of our other local partners here, or maybe you've even partnered with them or done stuff as part of their programming and their prevention activities in your school, in your college, or in your own communities. So each of these blocks represents a different area of wellness that we have community partners working on. So substance use, physical activity, and nutrition. So this is our SNAP Ed and 1, 2, 3, let's go. We have tobacco use and exposure, which again is what Roxanne works on here in Bangor Public Health. We have youth engagement, which is our Mayan partners. And it says mass reach health communications. That is our advertising partners. So Rink Advertising out of the Portland area. When you see statewide print media, radio ads, they do some targeted messaging on social media, and it says this message was brought to you by the Maine CDC, Department of Health and Human Services. That's Rink creating that stuff. And we have some programs going on right now that you may have heard talking about your sipping point and high risk alcohol use. That's something that we're doing through Maine Prevention Services. Other things that you'll notice on here is we have UR prevention, and you can click on any of these. 5210, let's go. We have Center for Tobacco Independence. Sidekicks is a program that works with young people and adults, kind of like a peer advisor program that's going to help teens find the words to talk to their peers about tobacco use and vaping and nicotine in general. It's a really great program. We have some that are going on here in Penobscot County. So if you want more information, you can click on Sidekicks. You can click on the Bangor Public Health website or Facebook, and we can help you get more information with that. Again, the Maine Action Network is based out of the Opportunity Alliance in the Portland area, but we do have this programming up here, and it really advocates for and values young people's thoughts and voices and solutions, looking at creating more equitable communities and more just systems. They really highlight young people's leadership and passion and resilience and positive relationships. It's just a great program if you're looking to build up any youth, build some leadership and advocacy skills within them. Mayan is a great place. This Free Life is actually a national campaign that is designed to prevent and reduce tobacco and nicotine use with LGBTQ plus young adults. And the Maine Quit link is a really good program if you do have somebody who does have a nicotine addiction. It helps them quit as successfully as possible. So the UR prevention, you can click on these, and it's going to bring you to the urprevention.org, and it's you have a place to look for information for teens, young adults, parents, adults, grandparents, and organizations. It'll go to local prevention partners. You can look at teens, and it'll have some talking points for you, like, are tobacco, alcohol, and drugs really a big deal? Yes, they are a really big deal. And we talk about all the things that go with that. So that's kind of what we do there. That's who we are. Now, bouncing over, one of my favorite parts of our website here is our resources guide. And the really cool thing about our resources library is this can change, and it's something that's living. It's not stagnant. It doesn't stay the way it is. We're always adding and checking to make sure that what we have linked here is what we want to have linked here. So we've compiled a handy area of information that we feel is helpful, not only for educators, but for our parents and caring adults and healthcare providers, but really it's any community member that wants to learn more and to increase their own skills and to increase, making sure that they're welcoming and affirming. Each of the underlined words or phrases will open that website in a new tab. Something that we really want to highlight here, not only for educators, but also for any caring adult, is the Safe Space resource from Glesson. This is just a really good place to learn about what it means to be a safe space. There's a resource kit, there's a facilitator guide, there's an online course about understanding and inclusion. Another really good one is our Trans Youth Equality resource. Just really good vetted resources where if you want to learn more about what you can do or how you conduct yourself within your home or community or school, it's a way to do that. It's very non-judgmental, it's very welcoming, and it's very easy to use, and you can do it at your own pace. We have a section here for youth specifically. Finding a healthcare provider is such a huge part for our young people of how to get the healthcare that they need in a safe and affirming way. We also have on here the University of Maine Rainbow Resource Center, which, ta-da, there they are. We love them. They do wonderful things. I know some of the things have changed in the way that they do their work in the time of COVID and funding and all of that, but they are such a good resource right here with the University of Maine. Then we have our parents, and we like to not only talk about our young people and our young teens and young adults, but even for those kids that are 10 and under, we've compiled a whole list of books that are appropriate not just for the home, but for a youth group, childcare setting, or a school setting. And it goes there's a whole bunch of stuff here. Again, these are all vetted by educators, LGBTQ educators, and young people who are like, yeah, this is something that really would have helped me. It would have been a good conversation starter. Sometimes just setting these books out like on your bookshelf at home and allowing your young people to explore it on their own before you start a conversation is a way to start the conversation. I love the I Am Jazz book, talking about Jazz Jennings and how they came to be who they are and who she is. Just a really good, well-written look back at their life. So I think that's a lot of the stuff that I wanted to do there, kind of connecting on that. Let's look for going over to the statewide success stories, because what's the point of having a website if we don't get to talk about all the really cool things that are happening across the state? And there are some really, really cool things that are happening across the state. One of them, I'm going back here because I really want to find it, and I apologize that I've lost where it is. Here it is. Okay. So clicking on here, like I had mentioned before, OutMain does some amazing work advocating policy development and youth programming and support groups right here in our state. Amazing group of people that are working in that organization and doing some really valuable stuff that's helping our kids out. So part of this is they have a youth policy board, and this OutMain Youth Policy Board actually did a research summary looking at the health curriculums of high schools here. Specifically, they were looking at Knox and Waldo County. So the students met 7 times throughout the year, and they were trying to figure out how they wanted to do this research summary. They picked out mental health and health services and curriculum, and specifically sex ed curricula within the public school setting, looking at what they can do to make this a more inclusive school environment, one in which LGBTQ plus youth feel welcomed, celebrated, and have an ability to develop closer relationships with their peers and adult staff members, and improving their overall mental health. Looking at having inclusive sex ed in schools is incredibly important. And you can read through their findings right here. And again, this was a youth board. These are young people that conducted this, wrote this paper up, and presented us with the findings. So on a scale from 1 to 5, how much have you learned about the topics in sex ed? So the topics are sexual orientation, gender identity, healthy relationships, sexual assault, and safer sex. And 35% of them learned it in sex ed class, not from outside sources. So we want to bump that number up a lot. Then they also not only say what's going on, they make recommendations, and recommendations about young people's health coming from young people is incredibly valuable, and really taking the time to read and listen to their words and think about how to incorporate that into our own worlds is really important, because it's coming right from the young people themselves. It's talking about having more up-to-date training about sex ed. It's talking about updating the textbooks, having more resources available, having age-appropriate content each year, not just waiting for 5th grade or 8th grade or high school, but talking about this pre-K through post-secondary, and there are ways to do this that is age-appropriate and healthy. Don't divide by gender for the puberty talk. I love that one because it's important for everybody to know what goes on across the spectrum, not just for their own personal health, but understanding where their peers and friends, what they're experiencing also. And again, with some of this advocacy and leadership development of our young people, they want to have a board of students and adults to review content talked about in health classes. So not just what the adults think the young people need to know, but have the students have a voice. Yes. Oh yeah, so talking about when we're, especially when we separate things by gender in sex ed classes, and what's typically seen as women's health and men's health, and some of the things that are included in one and not the other, including safety, consent, really need to be looking at safety consent, talking about that cross spectrum, doesn't matter what type of relationship, if it's a same-sex relationship or a heterosexual relationship, this needs to be across the board, talking about consent with every single person, what it means to give consent, what it means to have the conversations. And my sexual violence prevention hat is coming on really strong here, but thank you for sharing that. And it is so, so very important. So that is our resources page. Going back to our statewide success stories, highlighting some of the really fun, amazing work. And our newest success story on here is from our somewhat local, it's in Hancock County, but Ellsworth High School. So Ellsworth High School's program, their Gender Sexuality Diversity Alliance wanted to paint rainbows in their crosswalks to raise awareness and show support for the LGBTQ plus community. And you'll notice, like a lot of communities do paint the rainbows in the crosswalk. It's a pretty cost-effective, easy way to show some affirmative and caring action, as long as some of the other policies and actions match the rainbow crosswalk. It's a really good start. It can go even further. So this group at Ellsworth High School petitioned the town and school leaders, got permission to repaint the crosswalk in front of their school, and then it was voted down. So they did some other things, and you know what? Young people are very persistent. They're wonderful. They do great things when they have their mind stuck to it, and they decided to fly the Pride banners on Main Street for the Pride Month here in this year. And at that point, the Ellsworth Pride Community Coalition was created from this high school group. I'm sure you guys, if you've been around Orono a little bit in the last couple of years, you'll see the animal shaped wood sculptures that are painted in various Pride flags. They're wonderful. I don't know if you can see my Susan giraffe sticker that I love. So the Orono group donated some of these for the Ellsworth group to use, had them on display. They didn't stop there though. They submitted a grant request to the Maine Community Foundation. They were awarded $5,200 to initiate a Pride event aiming to educate youth and community building diversity. And they did this, and they had a whole festival, and they had 600 people that attended, and they painted the crosswalks, which was their original goal, but they did so much more than that, because when young people, when they have something that they feel really strongly about and they get some good leadership and advocacy skills, they can do really amazing things. So it's not all awful and doom and gloom, because we have some really amazing kids, and the kids are really all right. We also, the last page to touch on here is our Connect page. Again, our OutMain links, you can click on that. OutMain is an amazing resource, very welcoming and affirming for all youth. Equality Maine is the oldest and largest statewide organization talking about advocacy and just society for our gay, bisexual, and transgender Mainers. There's a lot of education and outreach, and also advocacy with our lawmakers. We have Portland Outright, which is a support group for our LGBTQ plus youth community. Outright Lewiston Auburn, the Down East Rainbow Alliance. So lots and lots of stuff going on. If you know of something that can be added to the Connect page that is not on there yet, we're always looking to add to our page. So a way to get in touch with us is right here at the bottom. You can put, if you want to put your first and last name, you can. You don't have to. You can put your email, type any message, and submit it. It goes to a general Gmail box that is attached to this website. I'm actually the one that tries to check that email as regularly as possible. And if you need more information or want to join the group or anything like that, it's a way to connect with us there. So you can get to that right through the website. And I'm going to stop share because I want to add a few things into the chat before I come to our last call for action. So in the chat.
So Bree, before you move on, you did have one question
Okay.
about the list that you shared of books. The question was whether these books were about non-binary gender, or were they all about trans youth?
No, it was just all, it's non-binary, not just for trans, but it's also talking about different family structures. So not just the typical binary family structure, it talks about all of those different things. That was a great question, and I hope I answered it as you want. Awesome. Okay, so in the chat, I put the link for the genderbread person, for the Maine Integrated Youth Health Survey dashboard, for the LGBTQ plus SupportME network website, and our City of the Bangor Public Health YouTube channel, and my email. So lots of resources there. You can copy and paste and stick it wherever you want. It's going to be made available. And then, so for our last thing that I want to share with you folks, let me X out of there. Let me come back, is our call to action. Share screen. All right, can you see on your screen something that says, now it's black, it says a call to action? Is that showing up on your screen? Yes,
Yep,
awesome. Thank you for letting me know, because I lost all of my people. You're at the bottom now. Okay. So really, our call to action here is understanding that equal does not always mean identical. Saying that all students and young people should be equal doesn't mean that a student who, or a young person who is not LGBTQ plus and students who are have no differences. What we're meaning and what we're saying about this is that the differences that they do have should not translate to different levels of access of education, safety, community safety, caring adults, or opportunities. We really want to take down the fence, not just building up boxes to get over the fence. We want to take away those barriers. We want our caring adults and our educators to be the reason that our young people feel welcome, seen, heard, valued, loved, and supported. We're really trying to grow our SupportME network. We're trying to move forward and get more GSTAs while gaining more student perspectives, because that is something that we need to make sure we are doing at every point of this development, is having students, having young people really being an integral part of the process, because their perspective and their information is invaluable to the whole thing, and they're going to be what guides us. Another really important statement about working with young people, and this is used in a lot of different ways, but I love it when talking about young people, is nothing about us without us. So don't do things for young people without involving them in the process of developing that. We really want to make sure that we're sharing this resource and the network with as many community partners, schools, educators, caring adults as possible. Look for ways to engage with our LGBTQ plus community members in our prevention work, in our community work, so that our young people are seeing not just the marginalized, not just the token parts of this, but these our people are integral parts of our community. They play an important role. And when we do this, we make it safer for everyone. So just thinking about what we're doing within our own communities, our own households, with the young people that we're working with, to make sure we are affirming and we are safe, because not only are they going to be safer, are they going to be healthier, but it's going to work for everybody, not just for our LGBTQ plus young people and students. So that's everything I had to share with you this evening. I'm going to stop sharing my screen and wrap that up. Again, everything is in the chat. And while we are here, I am going to stop the recording. And then that way also, if anybody has any questions, they can do that off the recording. And so if you feel more comfortable, that would work for you.